Hello, the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we finally come to the ending run of our Hellsing Ultimate kind of marathon with episodes 9 and 10, kind of wrapping it up here with the big old set finale and grand battles. If there wasn't grand battles before, they still keep coming in this section here because, you know, we got to sum it all up and whatnot. But no, I thought this was actually kind of a nice kind of ending to it, because really by this point I couldn't tell you like what the ending was in the book. It's just been too long since I read it, so it definitely has a very fresh feel to me.
Yeah, and earlier when we started recording these, I said, oh, they kind of changed the ending a little bit. No, they didn't change the ending. There was just, I'll get to that part when we get to that part. But no, it's very accurate to the book. I have the books right here to flip through just to remind myself. Because, you know, as great as this is, and we've said it like on every episode of this Hellsing series, they kind of run together. And it just kind of comes down to, okay, who were they fighting? That almost kind of brings it down to, like, was this book or that book?
Yeah, no, that's also a lot of the things that kind of...
Or movie.
Yeah, in the episodes and so on like that. Which this one kind of starts off with the ending battle of Alucard and Anderson. Like, that's the very start of episode 9. That's like I forgot. Like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I guess he didn't finish him off in the last episode.
And that's the way the book starts off too. You know, it starts with this whole because we just saw the battle that kind of got going. We saw the end of the battle right here, and it really is just kind of the end of it. Because I don't know how long they're battling in the last one. I really don't remember. I swear we turn into the Vine Monster and they get their last words. They get that kind of thing. I hate you, but fuck, I respect you. Kind of moment.
Yeah, that one like that where it's like, this will be the most glorious battle that will equal to the glorious death. You know, one of those kind of moments. But like literally, like in this one, it's just like Alucard just like rips that Helena's nail like right out of him, and it's just like, okay, fuck off.
Well, it's also like that thing where he says like, you were supposed to be a man. Like, yeah, I know a man. It's a lot harder for a man to kill a monster, but that's the thing. It takes that. You can never, a monster can't, like I don't remember how we explained it. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's probably just some kind of thing like even though he kind of views humans as cattle, he kind of admires them just because they are able to do things you wouldn't expect they can do. Like, it's kind of surprising. Like, wow, an old doctor with a piece of a wooden stake killed me. That trips me out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's all those kind of things like that. Well, everybody's kind of going through these conversations now in these last 2 episodes where it's like, you know, a man, a monster, a woman, you know, like comparing us all together, but like, you know, some of us might be, you know, a man on the outside, but really we're a monster, and some of us might look like a monster, but on the end, but we really are like a man. It's just like, what are you doing? You're fucking dying.
Then we jump like 5 minutes later. So then if a man loves a monster, then a woman can. All right, we get. Because they do just have lots of monologues that go on for a while, and by the time we get to like the Major's final monologue, like, let's wrap this shit up. And there's even like I think not even a joke, but a reference to the character, to the writing style. Seras is like, if he says one more speech, I think I'm going to go mad, you know? So it's kind of like, I think it's at some point it was Kanto Hirano's goal to annoy you with the Major in his like bombastic speeches.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of how it is. He just is like very like over the top of his speeches, and just like how he was in like one of the previous episodes where he's up there like he's orchestrating to like the sound of battle. It's like one of my favorite parts.
Well, I feel like, and we'll come back to the actual the battle in a second, but I think that's something interesting about this, because when you read a character like this, you're kind of hoping for that character who starts pissing his pants and dies horribly, kind of like Luke Valentine, or any number of the Majors, kind of like main squad, you know, because at some point they're like, no, but he never does that. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Integra is like, he was never really a man. He was a coward. He was this and that. He should have been gone a long time ago. But we never get that satisfaction of seeing him like grovel and scream and die in pain after all the shit he's done. And I think that's part of the thing. Like, some people are just that fucked you can't even get to that. But they're kind of like the Joker, sort of. You know?
Oh yeah, it's like no matter what, they don't have, in a sense, they're men without fear. And like I think that's sort of like what it is. And also the other day, it's like, fucking killed 3.5 billion or million British people. You know what?
Slow down.
Today was a good day. It's just like I felt like he was that kind of person, just be like, oh, you know what, whatever, you know, I made a dent in history. Believe me, no one in England's gonna forget this moment.
Yeah, I think that's also part of it too. But going back to, because we're jumping near the end there.
France is real. They were real scared for a second because they thought that, you know, the second that England's done, guess where they're going next.
Like, oh fuck. And then all of a sudden, like, just a big giant red tidal wave happens over in England, and the Zeppelin goes down. Like, okay, I think the vampire took care of it. I think we're good over here. All right. Start serving the baguettes.
Yeah, exactly. Go back out into the streets, everyone.
Now because the whole like Alucard and Anderson thing, a lot of my memory is kind of warped on what actually kind of happens, because, like I said, I read the entire manga series and then I watched the abridged version by Team 4-Star. So seeing the unabridged version, the actual version, I kind of knew what was going to happen, but at the same time, the context was kind of gone, because, you know, they make it more funny in the Team 4-Star version. And the whole moment with Anderson and Alucard was still, there's still this, I'll see you in hell, this and that, but they still have probably the closest thing they can to, like, a friendship, you know?
Yeah, they got that weird, like, that friendship of, like, the battlefield, like, friendly, like, almost weird rivalry. That thing that only soldiers can kind of almost, like, explain to you, like, that makes sense kind of stuff.
Like, Alucard's crying because he's not sad exactly because, oh, I lost my friend, but he lost the first worthy rival he's had in his since Van Helsing. So, and he could have gone out, like, even if he died, like, oh, well, he was a worthy opponent, but he died. But the fact that he became a monster, God's monster, more or less, and then died, it's like, fuck, you ruined it, man, you fucking ruined it, what the fuck, dude, you know? Yeah,
exactly. It's one of those ones like that, you know, it's just like almost like that thing, like, once he's gone, like, what is there left in life, you know?
He's like, demons don't cry. Like, the most, like, you know, he still has this thing, like, you're gonna burn in the depths of hell, but demons don't cry. So he has this kind of, like, there's a little bit of humanity. So there might be a chance for God to save you, maybe, just maybe, or be smited, like, generously by him. But he's still like, fuck you, dude, that's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. I also like it like that when there's like that dog that kind of, I can't remember if this happens during actually this might happen during the Walter battle, but there's like that, you know, the dog demon monster that comes out, and then all of a sudden like it's like, oh, Luke Valentine's been trapped in here the whole time, and he just has that look of like, what the fuck just happened?
To him, it's still like 2002.
I know for a fact that's the Walter one, because then Walter, like, he's like 2 seconds after coming out of the dog being like, I'm alive, then Walter just takes all like his like, you know, string rap theory and just like goes around him and just uses his body as like a weapon.
No, that part's cool, because it's also, you know that he absorbs the people that he eats or kills or whatever. But we never saw Luke Valentine again, so like, oh, that's right, he turned into a dog when that happened. So I guess it's within the dog where all that shit's happening. But at the same time, the idea of like, I don't know, I just really like that part, because Walter, he's not as noble as a character as we assume when he first starts. But even as like, turncoat villain, I still really like this character a lot. And the whole thing that they say, because they kind of make it a mystery, and there's that part when they come across him, he's like, Walter, what'd they do to you? What'd they do to me? Like, oh, the Nazis captured me and hypnotized, like, did experiments to me and hypnotized me. Now I'm brainwashed. Is that the answer you're looking for?
Yeah, it's just like they don't, because that was the thing I was thinking, I'm like, did they ever really explain why Walter kind of did this, you know?
They might actually fully explain it in that Dawn prequel thing.
In the Dawn things.
But if I had to guess, it was a deal he made a long time ago. Maybe he realized he wouldn't be able to kill Alucard, and he just didn't like vampires, or he thought men should reign supreme, or something to that effect. So he made a deal with them a long time ago, and in that time, with the Nazis, and in that time, while working as a double agent, as a butler, he did grow fond of Integra and the rest of Hellsing and this and that. But at the same time, he's like, well, I made my deal. And I think it wasn't like the more he uses the power, the more he ages down, the more he just Benjamin Buttons, and like he eventually he's just gonna bleed out and die, more or less.
Yeah, because he just keeps turning more like boyish and so on. Like you almost can't even recognize him after a while because it's just one of those ones you're like, oh, what the heck? He's younger than like Alucard right now and so on. And he's got like the emo haircut starts coming in. Be like, I had a phase in the 40s. Or, in the 1930s, I was kind of, one of the first starters of, like, the emo revolution. While people were trying to be, while beatnik stuff was coming into play, I was going a different direction.
I was jumping a few decades ahead. I gave David Bowie the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And the emos took the idea from David Bowie. There. Or The Cure, even. I remember reading the book and just saying, okay, Walter's a little younger, so that's got to be some kind of side effect thing. Because I was a little confused at the first time reading it, what was going on. But then as it continued, I was like, oh, he's turning younger and younger. And that was the thing. Like, he was basically... I think it was the more he used his ability to go back to that age, the less... Like, the more he used his ability, the further he'd age. And eventually it wasn't like... I don't think it goes as far as you turned into a baby, but his body would just start to, like, fall apart and break and just be pushed down by the power. I don't know. I think they just wanted to draw... I think as much as he likes doing, like, the bombastic, badass characters... I think he really just likes drawing kind of little femboys every so often, too.
Yeah, well, exactly, because it's like, you gotta have, like, what's his name, the little cat boy, Schrodinger or whatever.
Schrodinger.
Which I love the part where, like, when Integra's, like, walking on to, like, the Zeppelin, to kind of do the final battle and whatnot, he just stand there, she just turns and fucking shoots him in the head, just...
Well, I just like that right there, just because it is just such. I'm so fucking tired of these. Bang, just keep walking. Like I'm not. Doesn't even look at him. Just
no.
I feel like she knew what was gonna happen, but it was still just that. Fuck you. Man.
Yeah. Well, it's just like that thing. It's like he's doing nothing wrong. He's like literally like gonna walk him on inside the Zeppelin.
Well, I even like on the way in, like how Integra. We get that. She is like business above all else, even though she may have feelings for people or things inside. It is still business first and foremost. Mm-hmm. So she's like, Walter, I don't care about her history. You're a turncoat. I hope I never see you again. Alucard, wipe the floor with that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then even Seras is like, Walter, it's weird saying this, given everything this happened, but thank you for all your support and help early on. It's like, oh, you're welcome. Just kind of like a, yeah, that's Seras, and like like Alucard or Integra's like, don't fucking say thank you to the Nazi.
Yeah, but he gave me some cool guns and stuff. I mean, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, Nazi guns are cool. Like, we're not gonna deny that. It's like when you see that gun that fucking shoots around a corner. Come on, like, how is that not cool?
You saw it before, Wanted.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I almost even kind of like that, though, that she almost can put that aside. It's just like, I know that he's a villain now, but I'm not going to deny that he actually was a real nice fella, when I knew him. It's like that kind of thing where, like, someone's like, God, that person's a fucking asshole. Like, fuck this person. So I'll be like, I don't know, they were nice to me.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I get the vibe. Like, she knows, like... You hear all this stuff, like every so often you'll hear people talk about shit on this person or that person. And then you finally meet them and be like, I'm going to keep them like at arm's length, but they're very nice to me, and I could see them possibly fucking me over, but they are nice to me, so I got no reason to be dicks to them yet. At the same time, I'm not going to be inviting them over anytime soon, Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I've just met so many people in my entire life that are like, one of those ones like, everybody seems to hate them. I'm like, oh, they're friendly to me. I guess I'm just on the good side. That's where you want to be with those kind of people. You know what I mean? It's like at the end
one
of
those
the day,
people, your co-host, like, man, Dunnigan's such a dick.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing. Well, I just bring him a candy bar every single day, so the day he comes by to shoot up the fucking off.
That's the reason. That's how we're friends. You just brought me a candy bar every day. Like, hey, this looks like a loose cannon. Here you go. Aim that direction.
He looks like he looks like he's got the ability to shoot up a school in him. Here's some Street Fighter V.
Oh. And then a podcast was born.
Shit. Well, I remember back in the old school days that there was even one kid that told me once, he's like, I pretty much hate everybody here. He's like, there's 3 people I like, and you're one of them. I'm like, cool. Glad to be on that side.
Yeah, well, I'll say this.
You know what I mean? Like, if there's something I've learned in life is when there's you want to be on the side that, hey, you know what? I might hate everybody on this planet, but you're not too bad.
We'll get back to Hellsing in just 1 second because it's getting a little too close to home here. But at the same time, I had a similar, not the same person because I know who you're talking about, but I had a similar interaction with someone else. But then the problem is that person then wanted to become friends with me and hang out a lot more. And then it was just like, ooh, I'm going to have to disappoint this guy, because this guy actually did look like kind of a Columbine, like, waiting to happen. So I was just like, ooh, hey, man, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, I'm just going to go, we're talking about going to that graveyard and having some absinthe. Like, I'm good, but, Yeah,
because you don't want to get that point where the next thing you know, you're trapped in that guy's basement, and then you get that kind of moment like, okay, I got to make sure I don't push any wrong buttons down here, because we're at that point of life where I don't drive yet, and I got to figure a way out of this situation.
I don't want to go. Well, I don't want to go down to this basement, but that's where the GameCube is.
Yeah.
At the same time, why is there a jar with my name on it here?
If we're gonna play Halo multiplayer, do I, almost hand over the victory to him, or do I just go with myself and try to win?
Yeah. So eventually I just we're not going into that, but yeah. Anyway.
We're playing 1 versus 1 capture the flag. It's a real kind of a, there's no one else to blame but ourselves.
There's only one he likes to play as, though. Yeah, you do. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of Walter and Seras, their relation.
Yeah, exactly. They got that one where it's just like, you know what? Everything was good. He would bring me new weapons every single day. We'd blow shit up together, I mean, I saw that he had a swastika tattoo, but I thought it was just the Indian one that means peace. I don't want to be judgmental now. You know what I mean?
He said it was Tibetan. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's how it kind of went. So I'm saying thank you because I'm going to go shoot another fat Nazi guy right now. So see you guys later.
Well, when they go in there, because, I like the battle between Walter and Alucard, because it is one of the typical things where you think, well, Alucard just takes a beating and then looks for their weakness. I'm like, oh, that was cute. You thought you won? Mm-hmm. And then he just, just the idea of oh my god, I'm alive, it's like with Luke, and then all the
he's just most wrapped painful, up.
Well, all the wires go under his skin, connect to his nerves, and then he's just using him. And then, he's like a ragdoll. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like he's only alive for all of 2 seconds before he's being the puppet, being the marionette.
And then even how Alucard just oh. I underestimated you. You actually shot me. Okay, but you're still a piece of shit.
Yeah, and you know what? The second I defeat you, what's going to happen? Are you going to turn into a baby, or are you going to turn back to an old man?
And then there's that's when Alucard turns into a little girl. For some reason.
Yeah. There's some bizarre shit that kind of happened that I was kind of like, oh, he just. Because at first there's a period where you're like, oh shit, Walter's got him all strapped up and he's ripping his legs off. He's turning him into Torso Boy there, and so on. Then he takes this. He's like, if I shove the stake into you, I will finish him off. And then as he goes to do it, it's like Alucard's on the other side, like, hey, didn't get me. Not my little girl.
I'm not sure if there is some in the Team 4-star thing. Now, I'm not, because what they do is they actually do, it's not just like a couple of people making fun of it. They're people that actually really do like the source material a lot, so I'm not sure if they watched The Dawn and then did some other research into it, or if they just made this up. But they got it across that because, Alucard can change to... he can change to like a girl, he can change to a monster, he can change to Dracula, then modern Alucard, whatever. They got a point that he was in that form back in the 40s, and like Walter had a crush on him, and he did that to turn back into the form to fuck with him, saying, "Oh, what's wrong?" And like this is in the Team 4-star
Just like
version.
one of those ones where he goes to catch like a peek in the shower and so on. Then she turns around, and is like, "She's got a big cock." Oh God! Does that mean I'm gay?
And still has the Alucard voice, like, ha ha ha, so. No, but like there's a joke in there where he says something to the effect of like, because it's still like the deep. It's not Crispin Glover doing it, obviously, but whoever does the voice of Alucard in that does the. Are you disappointed I couldn't do the? You never got a chance to hear me say, and then he does like in the most animated voice, like, Walter son, like just fucking with him, like just goes like Japanese schoolgirl voice for a second.
I mean, maybe that is what it is. I thought for some reason Alucard like jumped into like another, just I don't know, there's bodies all over the place, but
I don't know.
But I really I couldn't tell you. I had no idea.
That I think, in all honesty, that would make more sense to me that if he just took the form of a random little girl who got caught in the crossfire. Mm-hmm. But I don't know why that makes more sense to me saying it out loud, but it just kind of does. But then there's literally flashbacks where he's in that form back in the 40s. So It's like, I don't know. That's
not where like all his, because there's a second section where Alucard has all these flashbacks. I think that actually might be in the previous battle, but where like it's just one of those ones where he's going through his life and then just literally there's a priest is just like, come on, get over the bed, Billy.
Okay. Well, that whole thing, it's like it also trying to show.
I just think it's just funny. It's just like one of those ones, just like you're in this battle, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh shit, not this flashback again." Why am I being reminded of this past experience?
Well, I think it's also just one of those things like for
Sunday school.
This is why I don't like to stay late when he says, "Help me clean the chalkboard after class." Yeah.
It was that one time I wanted to spend, the night over at, Steve's house or whatever, and it's that thing that his mom said, "Well, you got to go to church on Sunday," and I was like, "Well, I fucking hate church, but you know what? He's got the fucking Super Nintendo hooked up. Sure, let's do it." And
or at that time, the closest thing to the Super Nintendo would have been an abacus.
Yeah, exactly.
He just got an abacus, closest thing we got.
He's got an imported Chinese calculator in his house. We're gonna calculate some shit tonight, but you know what? The next morning we're at fucking Sunday school, just like his mom said, and I didn't realize that what happens at Sunday school stays at Sunday school. And here's the priest telling me to bend over the bed as he fucking rapes me.
Well, that whole part right there is because I remember that part in the book, and I'm sure after seeing Seras' flashback, like, well, this part's definitely going to be in there. And
yeah,
my fiance, I'm watching this in our living room. My fiance stops and asks me something about the wedding invitations we're working on. In the meantime, there's like a fucking little emo boy getting bent over a bed while he grips a cross. I'm just like, all right, so you're doing that. I'll get back to the wedding invitations.
That's where you just need one of those shirts on that just says like anime. You just wouldn't understand.
I just put that shirt on anytime I'm watching an anime in the living room.
Yeah, exactly. It's just best not to ask. Refer to the shirt.
But like it's like I think because that whole thing is because I don't remember where at because there's a lot because it goes this whole thing is basically strung together by monologues and then like long murder battles and then monologue long murder battle. So I don't remember which order this went in exactly, but that was something to the effect of like he saw the sunrise. And there's something about the sunrise that always reminds him right before he died because he got decapitated at dawn before he became Dracula. I think he got killed by Van Helsing at dawn. And then I think because of that happened, it triggered probably back to his childhood before he was a monster, which probably they sent him like, he immediately like, you know what? Fuck the church. I'm going to do whatever I can to fucking piss off the church.
Yeah.
And then from there, going as far and crazy as he can and making deals with the devil. So...
Yeah, because I remember there's that one part where he's about to be like beheaded, and then he like licks the blood off the ground, and that's almost like, and that's when I had my change of.
If I had to guess, because they didn't really, I'm glad they don't show everything, but there's enough to imply there. I'm in this world where all this arch evil and like great evil and great good exists. The idea of licking blood right before you die sends you to a certain section of hell. Like, whoa, you're a special kind of fucked up. All right, I got a proposition for you. Like, cool, and that's, I think we just put together from there,
Yeah, exactly. That's almost like that's what turns him into like the vampire and so on. And I like that's just kind of an interesting little backstory he sort of has in like this, all of a sudden, mid battle at some point, Mm-hmm. But no, that whole Walter and Alucard battle is pretty darn badass as it kind of cuts back and forth between Integra and Seras jumping on the Zeppelin and whatnot. They kill a bunch of people kind of getting there until they finally get over to where the Major's at. He's like, I have a glass shield. Oh!
He was just kind of like the nerd. I know he kind of remind me of, I don't know why, but there's like it's like the 4th or 5th episode of like the Batman animated series, and it's like the Grey Ghost episode, and the bad guy is just some fucking nerd who watched the show. He's like, kind of has that Man-Dark thing going on.
He's literally like one of those guys in episode 14, 23 minutes in.
Like, I honestly feel like, the Major comes across as like, he's just like the ultimate incel. Like, he couldn't get laid, so he had to come up with an excuse to start like the biggest war ever. That's kind of how he comes across to me, because he's not good at fighting either, because he can't fucking fight.
No,
and he sucks at aiming. They got that across multiple times. He can't shoot for shit.
No, he's literally a war nerd. That's what he is. He's a fat war nerd who, if he wasn't like blowing up London right now, he would be like in a sense in his basement or whatnot, like with all those like kind of like toy war setup, like action figure sets where you can like recreate battles of old times. Like, for example,
and, like, painting miniatures.
Yeah, it's like it's in the end of, I want to say, The Living Daylights of Timothy Dalton. There's like, he gets to the end there, and there's like Joe Don Baker literally has like his war museum set up, and like he's set all these things off as like Bond's trying to figure out where the hell he's at so they can just finish him off, and then he's got all the weird things where he's got like all these like great like warriors of time, whatnot, like set up, but as you kind of look at them, it's like they're these mannequins, but then you realize that the mannequins are all just Joe Don Baker mannequins inside like different like samurai costumes and Mongol warrior costumes and even an Adolf Hitler one, and so it's just like, oh, that's fucking weird. Joan of Arc. It's just all these different ones where it's just like, oh wow, he just literally made a mannequin of himself of everything.
I always wanted to fuck a mannequin of myself dressed like Adolf Hitler. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Major just sort of reminds me of. Is he's that guy, Yeah,
no, that makes sense. I definitely see it, and I think I guess that's the thing, because everything else you always get to see that guy grovel and scream and cry right before they die, because you want to see that motherfucker get put through the ringer after what he put everyone else through. But there's just that part of his brain is missing, and granted, this isn't, we learn that's not the real him, it's a robot, which begs the question, who the fuck made this robot? But or maybe it's his brain inside the robot, who knows.
I think it's something like that, because you kind of learn he's a cyborg, but like many things in Hellsing, they're not really like heavily explained. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, he's a cyborg. What? Yeah, let's continue the story.
Which is fine. I honestly, I think, and I'm not trying to talk shit, because this is something I brought up before, and I was like, so why the fuck did he just turn into a bunch of bats and fly over there if, if he's on the ship? Because he could get there a lot sooner. And maybe he had, because he
needs his dirt.
Didn't have his He needs his dirt. I'm like, okay, well, okay, so what? You gonna tell me the dirt is in the back of the in the back trunk of that jet he crashed? Like, oh,
it is.
Oh, like 2 volumes later, it is. Okay, so it's like, okay, my bad. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's something. If he got himself into a corner, he's like, fuck. And they're like, oh, right, that's right. I the dirt thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It was there the whole time. That's why. Okay.
Well, that's why, like, it's just like, all vampires technically. You don't see it in, that's one of those ones where it's like that dirt thing's not in tons of different vampire stuff, but it's in Bram Stoker's Dracula, because that's like the whole thing is he's like, oh, I gotta make sure I pack some dirt in the fucking wagon as I go over to London.
Well, there's also, like, what was it? There was, God, there's another thing about that I was going to say. Oh, yeah, it pulls heavily from, like, a lot of, like, Bram Stoker Dracula. Because every so often I just feel like, oh, yeah, sunlight crosses, get him the heart, dead, boom. Oh, and there's a guy named Van Helsing. Okay, whatever. This one goes out of its way to really incorporate a lot more elements, especially when it brings into, like, Mia. They, like, how they create all these how they create these man-made vampires. Like, well, they dug up the corpse of Mina from Dracula, and because she was the only one to get bitten, become a vampire, and then get turned back into a human. So they're like, maybe it's within her bones, and I thought that was just interesting.
Yeah, no, and I always kind of like when kind of vampire stuff still always uses, the Bram Stoker's Dracula is the core, like, element to kind of pull from, to go with whatever you want. So, but like, I think that's cooler when it's almost like there's like the sequels of it, and that would be like Van Helsing, just like Castlevania, just like Hellsing and whatnot.
Well, there's also just the idea that, like, I feel like people, I mean, I've never read Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I've seen enough adaptations of it. So the idea that, like, somebody who's never cracked that book open is like, who the fuck is Mina? And then, like, seeing this thing here. But then I remember just reading that and just being, oh, shit, you tied it back around to that. I didn't think you would. Because they were still very elusive about how much they want to show from the original book.
I'd be like, who the hell's Mina? It's fucking, Winona Ryder. Oh. One of those kind of things. But yeah, no, I think...
Where's Keanu?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he didn't make it. But yeah, no, it is those kind of interesting things that they sort of got kind of connected and whatnot here. But no, like, once Integra's up there and the Major's just sitting there behind his fucking glass chamber, that he's like, oh, you'll never be able to get inside here. It's like, you should have saw if you think I'm fucking nerdy, you should have saw the guy who put together this glass.
This little Mandark laugh, kind of. Oh, we forgot to say the thing that takes Alucard out of the battle, which is something, because by the time he goes like, okay, Walter, I'm about to fuck you up. I'm about to turn into a giant red wave of plasma blood or whatever, get really big, and tidal wave down, and fuck you, man. And then all of a sudden, that's when Schrodinger, which I'm not really sure how his powers work exactly, but the whole thing, because there's the thing about Schrodinger's cat, which is something which... Maybe I'm just too dumb for it, but sometimes those questions like, the cat's in a box and it's locked in, but is the cat already dead? Like, what the fuck are we asking? Like those kind of... But that's the concept of the character. The character's neither there nor isn't there. Some shit like that. So the second he absorbs and the cat boy becomes part of his essence, it's like, okay, so he disappears. He's no longer there, so he has no conscience left.
I just love when he's like standing on. There's just like these like random like cuts of scenes at one point, and he's standing up on Big Ben and whatnot. He's just like meow. It's like I mean, he says it in a much more boyish like girl voice, because at least in the Japanese version he has a girl's voice, which makes it really confusing. But or it just sure sounds like one. But it's just showing all these scenes, and I don't know why. Just the camera like swoops into him up on like top of Big Ben, and it's just like it all says meow.
Well, I'm pretty sure even in the English dub, it's more than likely a woman's voice, more than likely. But I'll be honest. When I was first reading manga, the manga for this,
I thought it was a girl.
I thought he was a girl up until like volume 7 or 8. So
yeah, because it kind of just sort of all you gotta do is miss like one line or have one thing go over your head, and it just feels like it's a woman the whole time.
And like it says he. It has to be a misprint. And then they say it a couple more times. Like, okay.
Because you're like, well, you know how translations are. It's the early 2000s. You know, the guy doing it probably just barely speaks Japanese.
They're probably saying...
Or barely speaks English.
They can't be missing he every time, can they? I mean, granted, they'll say it a lot, but every time they seem to say it. Like, all right, it must be a he.
Yeah. Maybe they're just running out the ink on the S at the moment.
Well, it's like, the thing with that character, because I'm not entirely... Because the whole thing is like, okay, what's the whole thing with Schrodinger's cat? You put the cat in a box, and... You lock the box, but is the cat dead? Because the cat's not dead yet, but it will be dead. In that case, aren't we already dead? Some shit like that. And those kind of questions, I think, like, that's always some, like... The kid in the back of the classroom with like, a philosophy book that he's pretending to read, trying to sound smart. And whoever... I know, the guy who came up with that, I'm sure I know he's infinitely smarter than me. But a lot of times those questions, like, well, what the fuck are we even talking about? You know what I mean?
It sounds like one of those weird SAT questions.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, fuck it, C.
Yeah, and maybe someone else, like, people listen to this, like, Dunnigan, you're a fucking idiot. But just that kind of thing, maybe I'm missing the concept of what it is. But that's what the character is based on. So the idea of the character's never really there, but is there. But so if he's absorbed by a vampire, he becomes part of that vampire, thus the vampire disappears.
You need, like, a hippie in a basement to explain it, I guess, but it would take too much time.
A hippie with like some like freaking like acid or something, like some first take this, let's wait an hour and then I'll explain it to you. Like, oh, it makes sense, you know.
But you're gonna need an hour, man.
Joe Rogan's like, this shit's deep. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I thought of this in an isolation tank. Yeah.
I don't know why, I just feel like someone goes on to explain that cat thing in 3.5 hours on a Joe Rogan podcast. That's all it is. It's just talking about the cat thing, the cat boy thing.
And it's one of those ones where he's not making any jokes, he's just letting them talk, and he's nodding like, wow, man, you just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, exactly. And somehow, some way it works. That's the thing. It's not just like it's the same thing. We're just going in like a cycle of like, you know, no. There's something just real fucking weirdly deep there.
And then like next episode, Joey Diaz comes on, he farts into the microphone.
Yeah, let me tell you about that fucking cat.
Joe Rogan, what the fuck you talking about, that cat? The fuck's he talking about?
You know what? I'll put the cat in the box and fucking throw him in the river. He ain't coming fucking back from that.
So why the fuck we still talking about this, Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan's just getting high the whole time, laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, anyway. So, yeah. But that's the whole thing with that character, which is, I guess he went by, because it took him 30 years to come back, because he had how many souls he had inside of him. He had no identity left after absorbing that thing, so he had to kill every single one of them to come back within like the spirit realm or some shit.
Yeah, because the weird thing is, Alucard somehow, some way absorbs Catboy, and then literally that fucks him up for like 30 years, which we'll get in farther. But it's kind of the interesting thing is because it's like, oh, we have our main character of Alucard, though technically, I guess, I don't know how you want to define it, because realistically, it's like Integra's like, whoa, whose fucking name's in the title now?
Well, we forget that Alucard's not the main character. We forget that.
He's just he's almost like the cool side character. You know, in a sense, he's like one of those ones that like it's like one of those movies where like you really remember like one person, but you're like, wait a second, that's not really actually the main character. Wish I had an example right off the top of my head, but I'm just not drawing a blank on that.
Terminator.
Yeah, like Terminator in a sense, you know what I mean? Like, you know, technically Sarah Connor and John Connor is the main character, but that's not the first thing that you always come to.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, no better way to put it other than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's one of those things, like, you get kind of attached to him, but the real thing is, I think that he realized early on, because, you know, he seems, he's still super strong, but when you first read the first 2 volumes, he is strong, but there doesn't seem to be a way to level the cap on him, because he gets decapitated in the first volume, and then his head explodes, and he says like, "Drink my blood," blah, 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 whatever, like writes it out, and he comes back like, "Oh, you thought cutting off my head was gonna do anything? Fuck you!" And then like from there, it's just like, well, as long as you don't stab his heart, but I guess as if he could like turn into a blob of blood and move around and turn into like a dog thing with 800 eyes. it's going to be kind of hard to figure out where his heart is.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the thing. Sometimes Alucard does feel like he's written almost a little too powerful, but they always find ways to sort of like knock him out of the picture. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, Integra here is going to finish this all off for us.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing where, I mean, without Alucard, how did Hellsing survive all that long? I mean, would they have survived that long without Alucard? Like, everybody's dying off. He's in the basement in a chair sipping some wine, waiting for, like, a guy with a ponytail and John Lennon glasses to come down. And then he's like, okay, now I'm joining the fight, But
yeah.
The whole thing, so it's like, there is that thing about, like, he is a little too strong, and I think that it becomes that it almost gets harder, kind of trying to explain away why you guys are having so much trouble take down these guys when Alucard's there. So it becomes more of a thing of getting him off the table or in the other room so they can have characters that are more depowered handle the situation.
Yeah, but it is kind of one of those ones once like the Major's there with his fucking glass shield, and Integra takes one for big rifles and just starts blasting away. He's like, ha ha ha, like I paid good money for this bulletproof glass. You'll never get through here. And then she just rips this like ginormous cannon up out of the ground, and you just kind of see it's like, oh well. I probably should have paid that extra, couple $1,000,000 for that. When they say, like, hey, if some chick comes with a giant rifle way too big for her to handle, that's not going to handle the bulletproof glass now.
This guy should have thought this one out a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, if you're fighting a vampire that can turn into a giant wave of plasma blood between turning into a dog with a bunch of eyes from hell, then you should account for a very big cannon.
Yeah, a very big cannon to be ripped out of the ground. He's like, where the fuck is that cannon stored at?
Well, I even there's the thing we skimmed over in Seras's fight. With the werewolf.
That's right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which I'm wondering this because in the original Hellsing anime series, there's a guy, I don't remember his name, because they acknowledge that someone's creating vampires, but they never get as far as it's neo-Nazis doing it. There's just some mysterious organization. The show even kind of ends on somewhat of a cliffhanger. But and the villain is just some weird-looking character named Incognito, which looks like 3 different people had an idea and just worked on something like, what the fuck? Okay, we'll work with that, I guess.
Yeah.
He's not the main villain, but there is a villain that kind of is haunting Seras's dreams, and he's some guy who willingly took the chip, and he turned into more or less a werewolf. So I'm wondering if they went to look, we're gonna finish the anime before you finish the manga series. Can you give us any hints of types of characters that come in that we could possibly maybe do our own version on? He's like, well, I mean, at some point we get a genetically engineered werewolf. Like, oh, okay, we'll work that in. But this guy is way better than the one in the original anime series.
Yeah, it could be something like that. But that is actually kind of an interesting one where she has to kind of battle that werewolf one, and then all of a sudden, Bernadette comes in her memory, is like, yo, what the fuck you doing? Like, you got this fucking, you're fucking Seras, like, come on, it's just a fucking werewolf. Here, take some silver.
Well, I just I knew that he was going to be in her voice. I remembered that, but I forgot he physically comes out of her, out of her
because she absorbs him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so glad to see him back because I forgot that happened, and I was just like, oh shit. So yeah, it's kind of like, because every so often, one of your favorite characters gets taken off the table. Like, I get it, it's sad, but oh, he's still more or less there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like win-win, kind of. You get the satisfactory, awesome death, but then he still gets to be there to a certain extent.
Yeah, and help her out in that battle right now there to defeat the werewolf dude. But
there's even because they're fighting in a room where they stole a bunch of gold and jewels from
that's right.
Jews and all that, because it comes across a golden tooth.
That's right, because they go through all there and stuff, and there's just all the artwork and all the money and everything taken from concentration camps and so on. They're like, this is what the Nazis collected. They're like, why are they storing it all in the fucking Zeppelin? Be like, well,
just take our work with us.
He doesn't trust other people. You know what I mean? He's not just.
He doesn't trust banks, if you believe that.
Yeah, exactly. So he's got to take it all with him and whatnot. He's been carrying this shit around all over fucking South America.
that whole part, because that battle is pretty awesome, and we even kind of like we kind of forgot to mention when I forgot her name, but the samurai nun and then Heigl get fucked up by Walter.
Oh, that's right.
Like, I felt so bad for the samurai nun because even though that she is not on the same side as Hellsing, she understands like, oh, well, first off, she has the whole samurai code of honor thing going on. But on top of that, she has the whole thing like, well, I'm a servant of God, so I serve greater power. And she's like, well, even though I fucking hate Hellsing, you're still a servant of Hellsing. How could you go against your master like that? So going at her like, you have no honor, all that kind of shit. And then I was sad to see her die so quickly because she was such a badass in other aspects.
Yeah, well, those characters, they might be like the one where it's like you have these other cool characters, but there just really wasn't enough time to really utilize them.
Mm-hmm. They have one or two like side stories in the mangas, like because there's one where they're dealing with like Heigl and the samurai girl are dealing with like terrorists in the Middle East that are trying to attack like some I don't remember what's going on, but they stop a hostage situation.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Too bad they didn't utilize some more of that there because they in the show it definitely feels like they're kind of there just for that brief moment and just to kind of be cool looking characters in the background. And that's about it.
Well, when she gets shot in the side of the face, Heigl, and like you kind of like her teeth and her jaws are all exposed, and then like the Nazi just throws some bandages on her and bounces away. Like he took fucking pity on me. He couldn't even finish me. He doesn't. He just wraps like the fucking like she looks kind of like a mummy with her face. Like I think that's a cool look when she just has all those bandages. You see her mouth is still all fucked up looking though.
Yeah, she's like literally like crawling to try to finish people off still.
And then she even goes after Walter, and because that's when I thought that Walter died right there. I thought that I remember I wanted to see the actual version rather than the Team 4-star version. So I typed in Walter's death because I knew he gave a good speech at the end right before he died. Mm-hmm. And then it's just got to the part where he got shot by the sniper fire. And I was like, oh, they kill him off like that? Oh, shit. I'm like, oh, that's not Walter's fucking death. That's him just getting killed. Okay, whatever. And I was glad to see that they didn't, that even though that when Walter dies and betrays him, he still kind of has this little bit of moment of redemption.
Yeah, exactly. As he's kind of getting, blasted away and so on, he still has that moment and whatnot. But yeah, no, that is kind of a cool part that you kind of forget about. I think that does even happen in episode 10. So that's the thing. Some of that stuff, like I think they die, or they supposedly die at 9, and then I think it's like, in 10 you realize she's still like there and so on.
Well, it's like the whole part where he's like, yeah, I sold my soul to the Nazis to kind of stay young and youthful and to try and take down the most powerful vampire in the world or whatever. At the same time, though, I never really gave a shit for the Nazis, never really liked the Nazis. I made that decision when I was young, and I'll be goddamned if I let another Nazi regime pop up 20 years down the line. So he goes and kills the one scientist who was trying to take all his work and head out, and that's where we find out Mina is the way they created the vampires in the first place.
Yeah, from the body and so on, which is a cool part there. But at the top, finally, Seras breaks through that glass wall of the Major and whatnot, and then it sort of like blasts like part of his head off or whatever in the process as that like giant like shell comes through, and you sort of see, I think that's right where it sort of shows like, oh yeah, he is sort of a cyborg, because there's like a flashback at some point where it goes and it's like literally when like the Soviets are like invading Berlin and just like they're like, fuck this place up.
Like, so not so high-minded now, are you? And just like kicking him down, just unloading on him, and then the one doctor gets out, like, oh my god, and he's just running over to him.
Yeah, it's like those Soviet guys. It's like, you know what? Like a year ago, they gave us one gun each and one, 5 rounds of rifle. Now we got so many bullets, we're just gonna fire them up in the air.
I like that there's a part in like Enemy at the Gates where it's just like, okay, you're the ammo boy, you're the gun boy. Like, this is so well thought out.
I know, because it just reminds me like one of those ones like, how about you send half as many guys out there and just give them both what they need?
No time to think, just go.
Yeah, it's like, no, that is not Soviet way. You are ammo boy. Wear
like
that ammo.
Two
with
guys
pride.
try to. two guys try to run away. One of those guys gets shot. Like, what the fuck? We only have 4 shots now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, whoa. I mean, I know we gotta shoot them, but, you know, throw stones at them or something like that.
Yeah, so, but no,
see,
like...
that's a question, like, what would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy with the gun or the guy with the ammo?
Shit, I don't know. I guess if you're... Here's the thing about that.
See, that
if
should
you're
be an
the guy
SAT
with the
question.
If you're the guy with the gun, I feel like... Well, that's like, yeah, that... If you're a guy with the gun, I guess all the pressure is on you.
Yeah.
But at the exact same time, if you're the guy with the ammo, then it's like, man, you just all you can be is like, dude, don't miss. Here, don't fuck this up. Otherwise, we're both dead. You know. So it's kind of like it's a loose.
I'll massage your shoulders as you get the aim going.
You can do this.
Yeah, exactly. Slaps him on the ass. Sorry, I was getting into it.
Thumbs around the neck.
Because that's really what you are. If you're the guy with the ammo, you're just literally the glorified cheerleader.
Yeah. And then plus just kind of like, ammo boy, just like, okay, one, just like, like, do you just hand him the bullet, or do you just like, give me the gun? This is what they taught us in basic training. How did that work?
Yeah, maybe like, well, so you're gonna give Igor the fucking gun? Like, he can't shoot for shit!
He missed, like, did you just see the, like, first 5 minutes of the movie? He couldn't take the shot, and the fucking wolf took out their goat or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Give him the ammo. No. You chose ammo stick. Now you are ammo boy.
I would like to see more World War II movies from the perspective of the Russians, just because that sounds like everybody else got at least a clip, So that would just be an interesting thing to see in the long run, I think.
Well, I think that's why Enemy at the Gates is literally my favorite World War II movie. It's because it is like the full like Russian experience, Or why it's like also what makes like Call of Duty 5 so cool is because you get to play all those fucking Russian levels.
And you still have the, like, who's player 2 in that, then, for the ammo boy, just running around behind him, like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like, I don't think they don't have, I don't know if they have a Stalingrad level in that game. I want to say, well, one of the video games does have a Stalingrad. Maybe it's like a Medal of Honor or something like that, but that'd be like a single-player game then.
Yeah. Well, anyway, going back to that scene, though, that part, because that's after they beat the fuck out of him, that's when, I guess maybe his brain was preserved, and, because that's like... That's before the scientist even looked all crazy and fucked up. He was still just looked like a regular scientist. And even as a scientist, he just looks like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, he's remained young, maybe because he took some of the vampire DNA. But I think I remember in the books, maybe he had him in the comics, in the movie at some point. But I remember him having like long blades or something like that, but they never got around to using those for that character. Yeah. Like, I thought he had like long blades coming out of his sleeves or something, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm mixing characters up or things up, but I thought I remember seeing that at some point. And then he has the weird little like crop top thing going on too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, I'm a very fashionable Nazi scientist, yes. I'm thinking about getting a belly button piercing. That'd be nice. Maybe a little swastika right there.
He has to compete with Schrodinger.
That's what, yeah, because there was a little rivalry. Like, no, I get to be daddy's nasty little cherub boy, not you.
Yeah, just because you look like a cat, I can still be a man in a boy's body.
You know why he made you a cat? Because you remind him of pussy. And that is clearly not something he really wants, is it?
And what he needs is a man.
He needs a man's touch. Are you going to touch him if you have blades in arms? Fuck you!
In just 7 days, I can make myself a man.
I assumed you already were, but all right. Science. Progress.
Wait a second. How much money are we putting into this project? Don't you worry.
I liked how they actually, because there was whenever whenever the major would be given his big, like, one of his many big spiels, you would see a couple of people that look normal and they don't look like Nazi. They don't look like vampires. Like, is that guy, we just can't see his teeth, or what's going on there? And you find out they took a couple of, like, just neo-Nazi Germans. Like, look, we're not doing it for the SS, we're not doing it for the Nazis, we're doing it because we want to prove that we can beat England. And so it's a couple of rogue German Navy officers that are helping him with it. And there's a part like, you're gonna kill us all. This is the very thing that made us lose World War II. It's like, I don't care. This is for fun, you know. And then like they come in and just mow those guys down.
Yeah, exactly. Like the one guy's like, whoa. You know what? I just took this because I needed a job.
I just applied to the Craigslist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was at the point where I wasn't reading it. I was just literally sending out my resume to everybody.
It wasn't until halfway through the interview to realize what was going on. But then we're like, well, I'm already here.
You know, I saw the salary and I was like, yeah, you know, fuck it. You know what? I could be working at McDonald's right now, and that's all I thought to myself.
Do I have to wear the armband? No, it's cool. I'll wear it.
Yeah, no, okay, whatever. You know, money's money.
So, after all that, though, because, like, I guess that's the interesting thing, because there's the very final part, it's not a big battle. It's just more of kind of like this, because it was just one long, giant battle for, like, 5 volumes and 5 episodes straight.
Yeah.
So, by the end, it just kind of, like, we finally got here, we corner them, we kill them, now we're just going to spit philosophy, and then we're going to jump, like, 30 years later. That's what I thought was kind of interesting. Like, I didn't think, because where do you top it after the Anderson and Alucard and the Walter and Alucard fight? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is they just literally, once they break down the fucking wall, Integra just, you know, fires a shot off right in his head, and he finally gets one blast that actually hits somebody, and he shoots, you know, her in the eye, and he's like, I finally shot somebody, and then as he's laughing there on the ground, you know, dying, you know, he's just fucking, you know, happy as a clam with what he just did, and it's like, oh, that's the end, and then it's like, 3.5 million British people died that day, you know. Like, says something else about somebody else dying, like, and 10,000 neo-Nazis or something like that. It's like, well, that's fucking... that's a short list on their end, Jesus. You know, and then it's like 30 years later, and you get to like this fencing match and whatnot, and it does that weird thing where it goes back to like, because it's like I felt like I haven't seen it in a while, but like where they have like the cheap animation that makes it feel like it's like an 8-year-old's like show.
Yeah,
they cut to that for like what seems like 5+ minutes, where they just use them like, what, did the budget fucking run out? Like they're like, get the guys in here who do like, you know, in a sense just like the cardboard cutout animation.
Well, that's the weird thing, because in the original anime, they didn't really utilize that kind of animation unless you're doing like Next Time on Hellsing, and they basically just do like a bit with that style of animation. Mm-hmm. And then where this, if it's in the manga, where it's just a quick throwaway thing, they throw it in this. And that's one of the things where they try to be... Because I guess that... I don't know. Like, I like that. At the same time, I think it's also misplaced. Because there are moments where I feel like this might be one of those, like, translation-type errors. Because there's the one... This is going, like, a few episodes back. But there's the one where Alucard has one of those visions. And for some reason, it's like a parody of Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah, it's literally like a Die Hard one, but he goes to like other like Bruce Willis movies too.
So he goes from Sixth Sense to like Fifth Element to Die Hard to like a bunch of Bruce Willis movies, and Bruce Willis is the spirit of his gun or something, and you're just like,
the fuck is that?
What? Yeah, like it's one of those things, because at the back of the books he would always do those little crude, rough sketches with that kind of humor with characters who've died, or primarily the Valentine brothers. That's kind of like, because they stayed like in those, and I'm not sure it's supposed to be kind of like that's them in hell, or that's them just doing this weird like fourth wall kind of crudish absurdist humor. Mm-hmm. But they would drop that in the books. In the books, you'd be like, okay, well, it's the book. He probably just wanted to jam it out, get it done, maybe break up, have a little bit of comedy. But I feel like in the anime, it's especially out of place, you know?
Well, I think in the Hellsing Ultimate, I think they should have just cut all the... I mean, you can almost still do those jokes, but just tone down that kind... Because I feel like every single time there is that really, like... It's weird. To me, I feel that stuff doesn't work when you have very serious-looking animation and very serious storytelling, and then you cut to that. It almost feels... I don't know. I feel it's so out of place, because... I don't know. To me, it feels like if you already have, like, a wacky, like, 10-year-olds, like, fucking anime, that stuff doesn't feel too out of place. It's like, okay, whatever. That's just sort of part of it. But when you have something that is really serious... it'd be like watching an American movie, and you're watching something that's like a fucking hard drama or something like that. And then all of a sudden, just imagine if they kind of like cut the, say like you're watching fucking like a Denzel Washington movie like Fences or something like that, and it's fucking serious as fuck. And then all of a sudden there's just a weird goofy scene where it comes in and Denzel's all fucking cardboard cutout animation, and he's doing fucking there's spirals behind him and so on. You'd be like, the fuck just happened there?
Dad, do you like me? What, boy? Like, do you like me? Like, do I like you? I love you. I don't have to like you. It's a weird cardboard thing where the jagged T just like only 2 animations or motion like frames.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I feel like that would just really like, and that's how I sort of feel like it is in this. It's just, you have something that's so serious, and then all of a sudden you just have these like goofy, cheap animation look. It's just, it's like, I feel those only work and they have to be, your story has to be a comedy first and foremost for that stuff to work, or else it feels really out of place. I mean, I know in Japan, I think it's just one of those things are a lot more just natural, but I know that that's totally what it is. One of those ones like in Japan that's just like, oh, whatever, that's just a little bit of like, that's their way of like throwing a little bit of comedy in or something like that. But
that's what I'm assuming.
Because I feel like, in a sense, what it is, I mean, the equivalent of that to America, I guess, is when you have the real weird slapstick comedy that comes in like a Marvel movie that feels very out of place all of a sudden. That's almost, if it was a Japanese anime, they would animate those scenes in that moment or in that style.
Given the context, this almost seems more jarring than the animation, than the humor they put into a Marvel movie, because at least that consistently looks the same.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
it's at least there's comedy throughout it. Where this, it's like very minimal comedy. We're dealing with Nazis and the end of the world and thousands of people dead, and then wacky like kind of shit,
And mostly it's always on Seras, but every once in a while it does happen on other characters too. But at the very end here, it's just so weird because like Integra and Seras just have this, and it's just like, it's just so bizarre. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
I'll say that because it's basically gone. It's not. I don't believe it's anywhere in number 9, and it's not in anything in number 10 until you get to like the very end, and even the scene. Like, the concept of the scene is funny, but it's just the animation just makes it seem really out of place. Just because, I'll say rewatching these or watching these after reading the manga like almost 10 years ago, it really reminded me of Penwood, because Penwood was always just like, oh yeah, he was like the cowardly guy at the round table meeting or whatever. And then I was realizing, oh wait, he had way more of a presence in the series than I remember him having after watching all these. Because then when his like grandson or whatever is there in the future, and he says like, is it true that he? I heard conflicting things about his time on the force. Like, is it true that he single-handedly took down like 10,000 like Nazis, and that's when they cut to the weird animation? Like, yes, it's true. Like, she's forcing a smile. Like, is it true that he's the one that took your eye while you were sparring? Yes, that's true too. So I get the idea that like this guy who was always a pants-pissing coward but who died honorably, they're trying to like, well, no one's gonna fucking know because everyone's fucking dead. Yeah, he died a hero, But at the same time, that animation just kind of throws it off,
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of bizarre, but whatever. It kind of goes on and so on like that. And they're the whole time they're like, well, where the fuck's Alucard at? And so on. They're like, I don't know. He just hasn't showed back up in fucking 30 years. Every Thanksgiving I send out another fucking invite.
I mean, all he does is like just make it awkward.
Literally get a return to sender card.
Well, no, even I'll say this. Well, even that whole thing, like, because that's even that same scene, they get across that like Integra, though she's still business before anything else, she misses Walter. So I like that scene in the aspect of they let you know what's going on in Integra's head, because she tries to be like a stone wall the whole time, but at the same time though, I feel like just that animation style, and I know we're beating a dead horse by now, but that whole thing with the well, it just took him that long to kill all those souls within him for him to appear back, and he just like, I just wanted to fuck with her. That's how I do. I creep into a room at night, pretend to bite her. That's how
exactly.
I say hi.
And that's just then everybody comes fucking kicking the door down and whatnot as she unloads on Alucard. And it's like, were you trying to bite me? Like, yeah, 30 years is something to do. And then she's like, well, I'm old now. He's like, I don't give a fuck.
I'm ancient.
Yeah, fucking, you're not as old as I am, so, whatever. And she's like, well, here you go. Here, have some blood. And as it kind of drips off, it's like, boom, that's practically about the end. And then it goes right to credits, I almost want to say.
Which I kind of wish they went with, like, a rock song or something for the credits. They go back to, after that kind of ending, I feel like you should end with, like, something. I mean, it's not a big deal. Nothing I'm going to mark it down for at all. But they kind of end with another big, like, operatic, like, orchestral song, where I think they should have ended something with a little bit more of kind of, like, one of the funner rock songs they may have played throughout the series, just because it just seemed like after that scene, like, levity, all right, I get it.
Yeah, I love the idea of the thing that there's somebody out there who is like writing a critical review, and they're like, oh, this is fantastic. I love how the series goes, love how it ends, blah blah blah. And then they're like, but then it gets to the ending credits song, and that song doesn't fit it. Like, no, I'm not saying you, but I picture somebody else doing it. Like that song, I don't. It's not even watchable anymore. It's like, don't even go out. Fucking 0 out of 4 stars. Terrible. just be like, well, that's what set them off, was the fucking ending credit song.
Well, depending on the movie, like, let's say you're watching Schindler's List and it ends with the Spin Doctors, do 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 do. Like, if you're doing that, then, but like at the same time, like,
I almost feel that makes you feel like, oh, okay, you know what? I don't feel so bad now. It's just like that really eased the tension all of a sudden.
And everyone gets their own title card. They're going to turn, smile, and wave at the camera.
It says what happens to them, like Animal House style.
I need something else to get me through this. When that time along. Featuring Liam Neeson, Ray Fiennes. Him with a sniper rifle, turning, smiling at the camera.
Yeah, exactly. As like it goes into like just like a bloopers reel.
Right after they show him in Israel putting the stones on his grave, they cut to that. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Steven really fought to keep that in there, but even he can't sway the studio entirely.
just starts putting like sound effects in, like blooper, like almost like America's Funniest Home Videos, is like they're throwing bodies in. It's like whoop.
He's like holding up. This is like this watch. This watch could have saved like 5. Was it 5 or was it like 5 million? I should know this because this is like the 5th take. I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. You know how it is in these movies. You think you know it, and then all of a sudden you just space out.
Cuts the little kid walking. He's getting shot at. The kid falls over. Like trips. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't try to. It was a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. but no, like, it's one of those ones though. Hellsing though, on that one I think still has a pretty like solid ending right there, just like perfect. As I said before, it's like I like how this thing it knew when to like kind of stop before you've just drugged the series out way too far. I mean, granted, it's one of those ones like it's almost way shorter than it could be. I mean, this is one of those ones that could probably even be a little bit longer, but it is one of those ones that it's nice that it didn't go like, oh, we're going to go 50 plus episodes. And then you sometimes get to that point where you're like, oh, okay, now we're just stretching it out just to stretch it out. Well, I don't feel like because that's sometimes I was like, I'll say even good animes, there is all that sort of padding sometimes in between just to kind of keep it longer than it sort of needs to be.
This is basically, yeah, because like, not, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just saying, I mean, we're at least Hellsing, I mean, it's got, way long extended battles, not saying that that's not cool, but like, it's nice that it kind of says, yep, it's done. That's it.
This is kind of battle porn in that way, but I think it's battle porn done really good, know? Like, cause the fights just do go on and on. But I think that, like, I'm going to say if this was, like, say something like Dragon Ball Z and they stretched it out to a Dragon Ball level, this would be a bit much. But I think since they confine it to either one volume, to a volume of a book, or to like a length of a 45-minute movie, as opposed to a whole season just trapped in this one spot, I think that divvies it up a bit more. And I don't think the series is for everybody, but I really like it. And I know it took us a minute to finish through it with other things popping up here and there, and holidays and all that. Because this originally was supposed to be like a Halloween thing, but at the same time, I'm still glad we did this. And the series, I'm just glad I finally sat down and watched through the entire thing, even though it is basically almost. I mean, there's some things that change, just like pacing wise or shots, but beat for beat, basically the manga.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm glad we sat through and watched the whole thing, because it's one of those ones that, you know, for the last 10 years, it's something I've always wanted to kind of like watch through all the rest of them and so on, and just never got around to doing it, just because, you know, there's so much shit out there to watch that sometimes, you know, you just don't always get to the thing. It's almost like there's so much stuff to watch that sometimes you don't always get to the things you kind of really want to watch.
Yeah, and just one more thing about this. I do like how when they cut to because there's so, even though we say that, like, okay, in this volume this happens, this volume it's that battle, there's still those small things that happen between, and I kind of like something that they get across at the very end is Seras has kind of like that Anderson Alucard rivalry with Heigl now. They don't even say anything, but just that glance, they shoot each other in the when District 13 or whatever goes by Hellsing's office or whatever, and how they just like shoot each other that glance, like, yeah, we've done this before, but try to make a move on me, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's kind of cool. Just those small things there. You know, I mean, Seras is one of those characters I almost feel like you could almost even have an entire like storyline of just pure Seras adventures.
Oh, if they had Koto, you know what? I'm going to say this right now. I think there's more story opportunities with a character like Seras, because she is super powerful by now, but she's not that Alucard level powerful. I mean, she could be in time, but she's just a very powerful vampire, but still has trouble with certain things. I honestly think there is a story you could tell between after the final, between like the fighting the neo-Nazis and to where the series ends on. I think there's plenty of things to do there. And I'm not saying, make this specifically for me, you know, because I know how long it took just to get this series done. But yeah. I would definitely, if he licensed it off, I would definitely watch that character. You know?
Yeah, I feel like the Seras spin-off story where, like, you know, you could still have Alucard appear once in a blue moon. You know, I mean, shit, it's kind of different since he appears every once in a while here, where once he'll disappear for like 2 episodes. But, like, it's one of those ones, like, she could almost be the main one, and I think there's just a lot you could kind of do with her. And just, it's just that character itself is just a really, like, awesome character, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that there's a lot more you can. I mean, I don't know if he will, because after you've been working on that thing for almost 10 years, maybe it was 10 years. I think it was like I almost feel like it was a year per volume. That's how I almost
want to say that's what he said, because I remember the special features. You know, that's what he would say, is it pretty much would take me about a year to do one of these books. And I kind of like, because he almost seems like, you know, he didn't get trapped in that standard kind of like how it seems like everybody else in Japan's like, no, you go to work every day. Don't you dare do anything else. If you're not making fucking new pages for our fucking faithful readers, you know, you might as well just go off and jump off a bridge.
There is something to speak on, not this exactly, but something manga and comic and Japan oriented, I guess. On Octorok Talk some months back, we covered that anime Dr. Stone, which the show's okay. I'm not like in love with it. I'm curious enough to see the 3rd season, but the show, you know, I'm curious about it. But there's a bit, because, you know, people have been petrified and to turn people from stone back to being human like 3,000 years later. And there's this one guy they bring back, and he's like, oh my god, did I miss the deadline? What is it? 3,000 years later, I missed the deadline! Like, oh, he's a manga artist.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's just how it is. It's like, you know, if you're kind of stuck on that, and who knows, it's like maybe the Hellsing guy did do some of those beforehand and just said, fuck it, no, I'm doing it my way, you know. And it's one of those ones, like, realistically, once you kind of get a book going like this, you could kind of do the thing where you can kind of ease back and, you know, take these, you know, 1 year at a time and so on like that, and just kind of get it going. But it is one of those ones, I think, also by spreading it out 10 years no matter what, 10 years if you do 30 books or 10 years if you only do, you know, 10 books, I think by that point you might be kind of burnt out anyways on, like, you know, the whole character and story and so on. And plus, once you're kind of stuck in like a genre where you can't really, like, you know, I think that's the only thing too, is when you are like in a genre like it's like, hey, I'm in the action horror genre, you know, you can't really go like, well, you know what, we're gonna go off and do this, you know, spin-off episode here that's like, you know, has really nothing to do with anything else, and it's actually it's a Western, and you know, I mean, you could, but it might also be kind of jarring too at the same time.
Well, there's even like when it comes to like spin-off anime, like I've never seen it, and regardless of my love of the original series, I still have no intention to really watch it. Maybe in time I will. There is like Outlaw Star, which is, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's kind of old and kind of corny. I really like that show still. They had a spin-off series called Angel Links, and I guess it's more from the perspective of, rather than being about the outlaws, more about perspective of just kind of, I guess, proper military and like this girl on this ship or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing more of that world or that universe, but at the same time, like, I don't really give a shit, you know? It's just kind of one of those things. It's not Jean. It's not Jim. It's not like Melfina or Suzuka. Like, I don't really give a shit. So I'm going to say that something like doing like a spin-off of Hellsing, I guess depends on how much you keep of what characters and what aspect. Like if you wanted to do like a spin-off, like, and it's like a Western spin-off, like it takes place, like, maybe it doesn't have to be Alucard. I mean, I guess it could, because he goes through the time, but if it was like, oh, it's a Western story, but within the Hellsing universe, like, something like that would interest me, you know? But, I mean, I'm not trying to, like, once again, not trying to say, Taylor, make this for me, but it's just, after spending so much time on it, even if you do have all these ideas, like, but how many more years of that is my life? I gotta commit to that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it would be interesting to see, but, like, yeah, it doesn't have to happen either, because it is like a very solid place to end at, and I think that's what makes kind of Hellsing kind of nice. Is it's there, it's a perfect solid story. All in all, you know, you get great action, you have great characters, but it never has that drag on feeling that even other great shows sort of have, where you kind of go, did you really need this extra section here, or are we just kind of doing the same thing over and over again? You know, like this one doesn't have it, which is nice.
Regardless of that, I still like the Garlic Jr. arc.
That's like one of the best arcs of all. It's short, and it's a weird team up. Goku, Piccolo, and Krillin. I mean, I guess it's theory standard, but it's also like, oh, we don't have Goku there to come in and save the day. All right. Well, but that's almost like one of the best seasons of Dragon Ball is Dragon Ball Z season. I think what's it 4? That one right there.
It's right between Cell and
Yeah, because that one's great, because like in that one there's like 3 different like adventures that sort of happen, because it's like there's the Garlic Jr. one that's just kind of completely different. Then it kind of goes into like the pre-Red Ribbon Army. Then it kind of goes into like the androids and so on. It's like before, I think it's the Cell, but before, like when Cell's just out like literally absorbing people in the streets. You know?
Oh yeah, because I got the order of it mixed up. It was after Frieza, not before. That's right. Yeah.
But that's the thing, is because that's my favorite stuff in Dragon Balls. I love when there's a little bit more like the adventure aspects instead of the straight like, hey, let's go fight for 30 episodes in a row. You know, like I love when there's just that little bit more adventure, and you just don't always get enough of that in too many stories.
Yeah, or there's even the one where, keeping back to Dragon Ball for a second, there's the one after Goku dies, and there's that little mini arc where he's going to he's in some like afterlife tournament. Like that one, I remember being pretty cool.
Oh yeah. So it's just I like just when it's that kind of different stuff. But yeah, beyond that, go check out Hellsing Ultimate if you've never seen it before. Go read the Hellsing mangas if you can get a hold of those, because those things are totally awesome. And then if you just feel like you haven't got enough Hellsing, you need some more, well, there's always the original anime series too, just for an alternative take. But beyond all that good stuff, go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, and all that other good stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.